City-Dre. I'm here with Lonzo Williams, and
What's up?
the Compton mayoral candidate, Mr. Omar Bradley, is here as well. How's it going, man?
It's going well. I would have to say.
There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's going well, considering this was a very arduous campaign, and at least one phase of it is over.
Yeah, I was there. We're gonna jump right into it.
Ho. I don't want to sound dumb. What does arduous mean? For those out there who went to school with me.
I went to school with you.
Okay. But you went to college. I didn't go to college. I stopped at El Camino. They didn't have arduous then.
Okay. Arduous simply means that it was difficult.
Okay.
And it had a lot of twists and turns.
All right.
Now the election was yesterday. That's when we voted. It's tight, like most of us thought it would be. The mayoral position, being that it's tight between you, Asia Brown, and Eric Pearson, right?
Correct.
Those are the top leaders here.
Correct.
The last count we got was last night. It was close to midnight. And we have you with 26.2%, Asia with 27.8%, and Eric Pearson with 25%. How did you feel at this point when getting this news?
Well, you have to understand, I've been mayor before, and this time around, I'm not driven in the same ways that I was the last time when I was trying to become mayor. I know that the job is very difficult. It requires a great deal of patience, humility, and you're going to experience a lot of stress. So it's not something you want to just run into. The only people that just want to be mayor are those who have not been mayor. Once you've been mayor, you'll realize that campaigning has nothing to do with governance. When I became mayor, I had more hair than you did. But the reality of the situation is that when you start bearing 6- and 7-year-old babies, when you run into people who are impoverished, when you are trying bashing or castigating any of the people that I ran against, I probably had the worst financed campaign of all the candidates, the major candidates. As you know, the mainstream media has referred to me as the gangster mayor, the king of Compton. I had a lot to get over. I was convicted of misappropriation of funds. Jury was given the wrong jury instructions on purpose, and it took me 10 years to get those instructions corrected, and then I was found to be innocent. So when you have a KCAL report or a Channel 2 News report that says an ex-con is running for mayor, I had a lot to overcome. So I did not believe that I didn't have any fantasies that I was just going to win. I understood that it would be the culmination of a lot of work and some heart-rending decisions. So the mere fact that I believe Mrs. Brown probably outspent me by about $90,000, the mere fact that she only beat me by 91 votes tells me that the people believe that I'm more than likely the better candidate. But now the election results are not final.
Right.
And that was why I was somewhat reticent as it relates to coming on, because it may not be me in the runoff. Could be someone else. I think it's going to be me. And I do believe that in the end, without sounding braggadocious, Ms. Brown will find that running against me and not simply running in a field with 12 people is going to be very different than what she experienced before.
You know, Omar, one thing I've done my own little survey as I showed last week, and the general consensus is that when you were mayor, Compton looked and felt different. Okay, there was a different vibe in Compton. It had a different persona. The imagery, the media imagery was kind of different also. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow on my show, Issues in the Hood, at 6 o'clock.
That's right.
Plug. I got Jared Fellows on from the Compton Tribune. He'll be on the show tomorrow. We'll talk about Compton's image. But Compton as a whole, I mean, you can see the effort that you put into it, far as the flowers and the planters, the whole 9 yards, and all that has gone just gone to the wayside in the past 10 or 12 years. A lot of folks felt that you were done wrong, that you were set up. Okay, so there's a lot of votes. I can't say pity votes. They're just righteous votes to say, okay, let him come back here and do what he started. Okay, without the interruption. And that's what I think a lot of your supporters coming from. That is the general consensus I've received over the past 6 days since you left the show, since you left here last week.
Thank you, brother. It wasn't simply that we had flowers, it was who was planting them. I purposely went out and recruited Pyrus, Crips, Vatos, and I said, listen, instead of being a part of the problem, why don't you try becoming a part of the solution? It's much safer. It pays better over the long term, and it will make you feel as though this is truly your town. We also did a program called Operation Redirection, where we took ex-cons and we began to teach them how to rehabilitate homes, how to add a bedroom, how to sink a bathtub in, and many of those guys are now successful contractors. So it's not just building a building. Anyone can build a building, but it's whose hands are employed to build that building, which makes the overall difference in the continuity of the community. And I think that will be the difference between me, if I make it to the runoff, and any of my opposition. I don't care if you build a shopping center, if there are no black people from Compton working there. All you've done is unemployed some more people. I don't care if you build a skyscraper and you build all of these places for major businesses to come if African American people aren't putting the bricks down and laying the foundation and adding the plumbing. So you just can't come and talk to me about what degrees you have in development. Tell me how you intend on getting the Pyrus off of 135th and Central and get them involved. How are you going to get the Southside Crips involved? How are you going to get the Nutty Blocks involved? How are you going to make all of those men who have a history of 40 years of killing one another turn around and hand each other mortar and sand and brick and roofing material? If you're not from Compton and you have no respect in Nutty Block, Campanella, Carver Park, East Side, Front Hood, if you don't, these people don't know you, then you can't come over there and say, well, I got a degree from USC. Who cares? So I have a degree from Central Avenue. I have a master's degree in administration, but I have a degree from going to have to get a donut at Centennial High School with 15 Crips standing there trying to take your lunch money. So I understand what the community is needing, what the community is missing, and if someone has a better understanding, then I'll step aside.
And do you feel that Asia is less effective because she doesn't understand?
I believe that she'll tell you that she understands, but I don't think until you have some battle scars, until you know where the West Side starts and the Front Hood stops, until you know who the shot callers are at Ludus Park and at Carver Park, unless you have the capacity to speak to generations of black and brown people who have been gang-banging as a tradition and a culture all their lives, then you cannot be mayor of Compton. Now, you can be mayor of Pasadena, where you come from, or you can be mayor of some other town. But you can't come down here and tell me you're ready to lead if no one knows your name.
I had a friend of mine told me that after seeing the show last Thursday, that you swayed their vote from Asia Brown to you because of the way you spoke on handling the gang situation and employment. Because when she spoke on it, when she was on Dre's show, she kind of indicated that she was going to use more of a law enforcement way of dealing with it. And for a young black man, that's not a good thing to do, okay? So when you say you're looking to employ, looking to deploy, and looking to involve, that made a big difference in a lot of the young black male voters that I've come in contact with.
Well, when you start talking about sending young black men and brown men to work instead of prison, you're putting your life on the line. Because prisons operate because they have prisoners. If you don't have any prisoners, you don't need prisons. If you don't have any cases, you don't need judges. If you don't have any crimes, you don't need prosecutors. So there is a need to continue to produce criminals. Criminality is produced through economic depravity, which means if you go to Lakewood and you buy a home and you have a car, the insurance there is going to be about $75 a month. You buy that same car in that same house in Compton, the insurance is going to be $200 a month. The difference in that $75 is whether or not your child is going to go to private school or if they're going to Bentenio. or Centennial or Compton or Dominguez, and that then creates a cycle of poverty whereby poor people create more poor people. But we as poor people don't understand that we are redlined, that we're given meat that passes the other stores and ends up on our shelves. So if you get an African-American male who is going to say, hold on, wait a minute, if the meat's not good in Paramount, it's not good in Compton, then you start costing rich folk money and you become the gangster mayor. Now, before I went to prison, I didn't even have a pink slip in school. I had never even had a parking ticket. But for the mainstream media who utilizes companies like Ralph's and Boys and Cheerios to sell their products, well, when you start telling people, listen, we're not just going to accept anything because we're black and brown, then you become an enemy. And when you are an enemy, you have enough people around, and especially black people, that if so many white people say you're an enemy, they'll turn around and say, yeah, he's an enemy, because they want to be in the popular view. There's no way in the world anyone who has lived here 2 years can qualify to be the mayor of Compton. I bled in the streets of Compton. I have friends who were jumped, and I had to fight 15, 20 cats to save my buddies' lives. I can't leave you. That's a street code. If I came here with you, I'm leaving here with you. If you go to the hospital, I'm going to the hospital. And that's what's encoded in my DNA. Now, you can go to whatever school you want to, and they can give you the parameters of how to build a building, but if they don't give you the parameters of how to change a heart, how to take a woman who is a prostitute and turn her into a bus driver, which I've done that. The buses that I brought to Compton, I would not allow anything but a single black female or a brown black female to drive them, because I know that traditionally, when a black or a brown woman goes to get a job to feed her children, she's twice as likely to be rejected. So I can step in and say, even though there is no rule in the white community to hire whites, you can't find it on paper, all I got to do is look at your community and see who's driving the buses and see who's checking out the food and see who's passing out the mail, and I should be able to play Get Like You just like you play Get Like Me. They don't even know what Get Like Me is, because these are some young folks.
They don't know yet.
We got that, but
we have to play Get Like Them.
Yeah.
If you do in your neighborhood what they do in their neighborhood, your neighborhood will look like this. Watch this, and I'll let you go ahead from there. Everybody in here wants to go eat. You either go to Lakewood or down here to Pomona. Some of you even go to Long Beach and Beverly Hills, but you won't eat the food that's prepared in your neighborhood. Therefore, your restaurants look the way they do. Now, if all of you who spend your money in Lakewood, Beverly Hills, Downey, Reseda, start spending your money in Compton, then your restaurants will look like theirs. But you don't find people in Reseda saying, honey, I want to leave town tonight. Let's go down to Compton and get some grits and waffles, because they've been taught to promote, produce, and keep their communities whole, because that's how it is. But we watch television and we see African-American females on television who will say, girl, where did he take you to dinner? Oh, he took me to Denny's. Girl, I wouldn't take that out of my man. Well, listen, at Denny's, you'll find the people that live in your neighborhood working. At Denny's, you'll find chefs from your community. And so because you just want to sit your behind out of town and eat something, you unemploy your own people. And so if you want to know why no one wants me to get back in town, is because when I help build a restaurant, I'm going to tell the restaurateur, if you're not going to hire 50% of your people from Compton and include Latinos, Latinas, blacks, females, and black males, don't even stop by here, because I'm not going to disemploy my own kind.
is this why you consider the gangster mayor?
Well, I'm not a gangster. If I was a gangster, I would be out robbing folk. If I was a gangster, I would be out doing gangster things.
Can I switch lanes real quick?
Go ahead, brother.
Now, if I just want to touch on, let's say, the tearing down of Asia Brown's signs. What would
That's
be
the thing.
now? Her sign would be the
touch
only
on.
one that's been torn down.
So perhaps she was doing it.
Okay.
Because you bring up a trivial matter, such as tearing down a sign, when the matter should have been up, which was, where did she get the money to get all the signs? Because who's ever paying for the signs are going to be calling the tunes. Now, I got my money from having fundraisers in my garage. I got my money from brothers in the street saying, here, brother, here's $25. So who I owe to purchase my signs dictates who I'm going to serve when I'm in office. I didn't have a sign on every corner. But I guarantee you, Asia Brown did not buy her signs from her pocketbook. Folks that don't live in Compton bought those signs, and that's who she's going to report to. Now, this is the difference between being a young person and not understanding how a political machine actually works, and being a seasoned politician who knows that if I take money from the Lakers and Jerry Buss to put up signs, when Jerry Buss calls, I'm going to do what he said do. But Omar Bradley did not get any corporate donations. Omar Bradley got money from brothers in the streets, and those brothers want me to win because they know that when they call me, be they Joe, Mo, Willie, Face, I'm coming to see what their issues are. I don't have to report downtown.
Well, see, Omar, also, you came before they gave you any money. That's why they give you money in the first place. Okay? You come just because they called, see what's happening with you.
Currently, right now, I'm in the process with no money and no job of trying to free about 5 African-American males from either life sentences, 16-year sentences. I'm not getting paid for that. But having been in a cell and having known the depravity of living amongst rats, cockroaches, and eating food that is not fit for a dog, I know that if someone says, I want to get out, I know you want to get out, boy, because so did I. So I have a heart for the most meek and the most humble of people. I don't brag that, oh, I'm the only one up here that owns a home. I owned a home when Asia Brown was 6 years old, but I was willing to give up my home and undergo prosecution because I had to get rid of a police department that was corrupt and bring one in that was not corrupt, the sheriffs. So when people say, oh, I fought to keep the sheriffs, I want to know, where were you when I brought them here? When the Compton PD was still here, when they were 126 men strong, when they had shotguns, 45s, pistols, judges in their pocket, prosecutors who were their friends, where were you then? And if you weren't there for that fight, then what makes you fit for this fight? It's too many people that just want to jump up and be something because it sounds good. But until you've been something, you don't know what that something is.
Now, if you had to pick off a person to have a runoff with, would it be Asia Brown or Eric Puritan?
I'm like Muhammad Ali. He said he'd fight Joe Frazier in a phone booth. I don't care who you throw in the ring. I'm going to try my best to knock them out. Not because I don't like them, but because I believe, not me, but what I believe in represents the best chance for Compton to grow. I'm a firm believer in God. I would not have taken this chance under the threat of prosecution. I was told, look, you can just, if you don't run, we won't prosecute you. Oh, okay, then I'm running. Because I realized that Martin Luther King took a bullet for me to be able to run, that Malcolm X actually got shot in the face trying to free black people, that Medgar Evers was shot in the back so I can run. See, I don't get all, then don't get me wrong, I'm sorry that Tupac and Biggie is gone. But I don't get all choked up over that because they got murdered trying to make money. Martin Luther King died penniless. Malcolm X's family was living in an apartment. Medgar Evers' family lived in an old broke-down house. They weren't making anything for trying to save black people. They died on a principle. And so until we become principled people, until a person such as Asia Brown can understand that you cannot attack Eric Puritan because, number one, you are not his senior. Number two, you can't attack me because guess what? I've been where you're trying to go. The road you're trying to walk, I've been down it twice. And I know the rigors, the rocks, and the roads that you have to travel. So I, who have the most reason to attack Eric, will not attack Eric out of principle because how can I attack a black man and claim that I'm going to build black people up? These are the issues that I think the young people who want to run out here and support her, go ahead, do it. But you better start understanding what you're supporting. You don't just support somebody because they're young. You have to understand what they believe in, what they'll fight for, what they'll die for. You understand? That's what I'm trying to preach today. I only came here for one reason only, and it's this. If you vote for me for mayor, fine. I offer my services, and I will give you the best I have. If you don't vote for me for mayor, fine. I'm still going to offer my services because mayor doesn't make me. I'm Omar. I'll be Omar when I'm not mayor. I'll be Omar if I was the dog catcher. But if you don't have the heart for people, and if you're not willing to sacrifice for people, if you believe you should be elected because you can count off some statistics or you went to a particular school, you are out of your mind. Because you have no idea what being mayor of Compton is all about.
Okay, now as far as these other seats, that's pretty much a wrap here. We have Doug Sanders as the treasurer. What's your views on that?
Well, Doug testified against me in my criminal trial. He went down and told him, yes, I had bought a $13 bowl of oatmeal and a few other things. Yes, he bought some golf balls. But under his tenure as treasurer, the city is $49 million in the hole. So I would ask Mr. Sanders, while you were watching me play golf, raising money for Dominguez basketball, buying them gold rings, paying for them to have a parade when they were national champs, did you miss the $49 million that walked out the door while Mr. Perridan was mayor? And more importantly, if Ms. Brown worked in the Community Redevelopment Agency under Mr. Perridan, isn't it true that the federal government has snatched all of the housing funding out of CRA while you were there? Aren't these going to be the issues that I'm going to ask you about, young lady? See, I'm not going to sit there and let you just waltz through. You are going to meet me in the valley of decision, and you're going to have to talk to a man who has been here not 2 years, not I was born here and moved. I have been in Compton all of my life. My nephew's brain were blown out in the streets of Compton. I had to sit there and look at him bleed to death. I have a legacy and a history here, and you're going to have a hard fight if it's me to take what my parents gave me.
That says it in, right?
Get your
That's
hat
right
on
there.
and tighten up your wig, because, see, I'm a little offended when you say ugly things about people who have been here fighting. Mr. Perridan may not be my cup of tea, but he was a parks and recreation worker. He was a police officer. He was the mayor for 12 years. Can't you respect some of that?
Yeah, I was actually surprised to hear that you say in your interview with Lonzo that you would rather see Eric Perridan as mayor over Asia Brown.
Well, it just makes common sense. I didn't wake up 8 months before I decided to run and say, ooh, I think I'll be mayor. I paid dues here. I coached Pop Warner football. I coached Centennial High School. I coached Compton College. I put money into programs, and I took young men who were walking around on the streets, and they are now either paying in the pros or retiring from the pros. I taught them things that they needed to know because, and one of them is right over there. Here's a beautiful story about me. I tell you, ask Asia if she can match this one. That young man right there played football for me in 1984. I used to go to his locker every night and ask him, Ed, did you do the best you could do? And he would say, yes. I said, well, you won the game. When I got out of prison and no one would hire me, my football player, who I coached, came to me and said, Coach, you made a difference in my life. Come work for me. You see, those are real stories about real people that you cannot get from USC, because the folks that go there are not living the lives we are in Compton. We are living a nightmare. We have the highest water bills in the county. We have the highest taxes in the county. We have laid off 350 employees since I left. People don't have their retirements. They get furloughed from work because there's not enough money to pay them. Firemen are working 17, 18, 19, and 20 hours overtime straight and then being called to mass shootings and trying to save lives. So your degree will not help you there. You're going to have to figure out how to manage with nothing. Now, before I came here, I ate some corn and some beans. Amen. Yeah. Amen. And I managed with what I have. I've lived long enough and I've dreamed far enough that I know that you can't just tell me what you've been doing. You got to start telling people what you're going to do. What are you going to do, sister?
I got a question for you.
Yes.
I should have saved this. Should have asked this last week. God gives you the election. You win the election. First week, what's your plan?
Well, the first week is to begin organizing a commission to begin to study the elimination of gang violence in Compton and areas around it. Then I will work diligently with the Latino community to end the miscommunication, which renders us helpless because I don't know what you're saying and you don't know what I'm saying. So you look at me like I'm your enemy and I'm not, and I look at you like I'm your enemy and you're not. Black people have to begin to understand there's 70% Latinos in Compton, and we have to bring them close to us, not push them away. Because ultimately it will be 80% Latino and then 90% Latino, and we must make sure that they don't talk about us like we talk about white folks and how white folks did us.
30 days later, what you got planned?
30 days, well, I'm going to look at the entire financial picture. Now, I can tell you one thing that'll be different from me than anyone else. I'm not looking to put anybody in jail. I don't want anybody to go where I've been. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, I'm only going to be looking to correct the financial problems by looking at a long-range forecast of how we can galvanize all our debt, make those payments lower, and lower the water bills, and take the residual money to fill these potholes. If I was a prognosticator, or really if I was a gangster mayor or some kind of criminal, I would just invest in a will alignment company and get rich from all the potholes that are maligning our streets. But I don't want my friends' mothers and my wife's father to have to drive down a street that is so raggedy that the steering wheel looks like you're riding a roller coaster. You have to love the people of this town, and you have to work diligently to make their lives as pleasant as possible. That is what the job is.
So are you ready for this runoff, if you're in it?
Am I ready? I was born ready. You understand? There's nothing that this runoff may entail that me and God cannot defeat.
All right. Well, I definitely want to appreciate you. Thank you for coming on here. I do appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
I'll be back if you invite me, because I live down the street.
Right? That's right.
I could walk here. I'm really from here. I've been here many times before. I used to walk past this place to get home from Vanguard. We would have to take El Segundo to avoid the Crips on Avalon and 135th. I know how to go through the shopping center, cut through the park, and get out by Centennial without anybody seeing me. Every nook and cranny of this place.
That's why they got you
is
gangster.
Omar. Well, that's not gangster. That's safe.
All right.
Amen.
That's right. Omar Bradley.
God bless you.
The Hub Radio. We'll be right back after this break, man.
All right,
Lonzo Williams, y'all make sure y'all tune in for Issues in the Hood tomorrow at 6 o'clock. All right, thanks.